This video is sponsored by Fume. Much in the way that Space Marine colors mean something in the lore, the different colors of orcs, their orc clans and cultures, mean something as well. Now, orc lore doesn't run as deep as the Space Marines. There's no 70-novel epic series detailing the different colors of the orcs. But their clans leave a lot of room for creativity, kind of like my orcs. These guys are based on the War Boys from the movie Mad Max Fury Road, and these little orcs have been through a lot with me. They even made it through the great rebasing of the mid-2010s. Even though they lack the red colors, my guys are evil sons through and through, because they love nothing more than to go fast. With the upcoming release of Warhammer 40,000 11th edition, it looks like it's going to be a good time to be an orc player, and I want to experience everything the orcs have to offer. I want to paint up all of the different clans of the orcs, starting with the Goffs, the Ultramarines of the orcs. The most numerous of the orcs, the fightiest of the orcs, and the clan that Gazgul Mag Uwu Thraka is from, the leader of the orcs. One other thing I haven't really gotten to experience is the kinda new Orc Boy kit. Just called Boys on the website, these are some random monopose orc models that Games Workshop made years ago. The current Orc Boy kit from 1999 are still available from Games Workshop and are still considered the gold standard by the fans because the box comes with all the bits to make your orcs unique. This new orc kit came out without much fanfare, and us orc players are still waiting for a proper new orc kit. This one seems okay. It'll be tricky to kit bash though. The model is cut up very weirdly with his head attached to part of his clothing. These would be pretty tricky to assemble any other way than according to the instructions. Comparing it to an original model, it's still an orc though, complete all the way down to the circular armor on his back, and even though he's quite a bit bigger, the Slugga and Choppa are exactly the same size. And that's good because I want to steal a bit from the OG kit. A change that has been revealed for 11th edition is that Orc Boys will be equipped with both their weapon options, the Slugga Choppa and Shuda. And if you want to make a change, today's sponsor Fume can help with that. Have you been looking for a way to quit smoking or vaping? Well, today's sponsor Fume is here to lend a helping hand. Fume is flavored air. That's it, there's no nicotine, no vapor, no batteries, just a sweet air kick that helps replace those cravings. If you start feeling the urge to take a puff, Fume is designed to be a better thing to reach for. There's no mess and fuss, just hold it up and breathe through these fume cores that are infused with plants like peppermint or cinnamon for an all-natural flavor. Simply drawing in air gives a sweet taste based on your choice of flavors. My favorite is mint. I feel like it's the strongest and I love the way it smells. Fume is a flavored air device designed to help people quit vaping and smoking by breaking the hand-to-mouth pattern. It has an attractive look and a weighty feel that is nice in the hand, and the breathing in the aromatic flavors is a satisfying replacement to help you break bad habits. If you've been looking for help conquering smoking, Fume can give you a leg up on your journey. Right now, when you grab a journey pack, you'll get a free Fume topper when you use my code EONS. The topper is a little extra piece that's made to chew on while you use your Fume. This tool is all about working to break the dependence on smoking and vaping in a non-addictive, positive way. Head on over to the site to get started, the link is in the description below. To get my Orc 11th edition WYSIWYG, I grabbed a Shuda off the old sprue and then started hacking away at the Orc's hand. Not cutting it off, just clipping and shaving it down so I'm left with just the handle. This took a little bit of time to get right, but it's an Orc handle, so it doesn't have to get that right. Then I took my pin vise and I drilled out the trigger hole. And while I had the drill out, I drilled out both of the barrels of his guns. Now to figure out how to attach this Shuda, I'm thinking slung over his shoulder, bounced around on his side. I dremeled off some of his pockets and pouches to make room for this bit. Then I superglued it into position. I didn't end up with a great connection, so I added some more superglue and I snuck in some Milliput putty to strengthen the connection. Now the Shuda's in place, I need to make it not just floating on his side. I grabbed a sheet of thin 0.3mm plastic card sheet and I cut off a thin strip to make a strap. I bent this and wrapped it around my boy's shoulder, having it end at the back of the Shuda and then come around to tuck under his armpit. I didn't want to have to attach it all the way at the end of his barrel because I don't want too much of it floating, so I guess it's attached somewhere on the receiver. I made a dimple on the end with some spins of my hobby knife, and to attach the strap to the back of the Shuda, I superglued a little craft bead as a button to make it look real. Then on the front, I cut off some more length of plastic, and I glued this to make a second layer of the strap, like it's adjustable, and I bent it up. Then I added a little rectangle of plastic card as the buckle that holds down this added length. I used my pin vise to just twist in some more dents to make it look like the strap has adjustable holes, and now it's much more convincing. I think it looks pretty good. All painted up, I bet it won't even be noticeable that I added this piece. I really like the new Boys kit. I have put together so many of the old school Orc Boys kits. These guys are a little bit bigger, a little bit tougher, a little bit wider, actually quite a bit wider, and they feel like the hulking brutes that the orcs are. Still smaller than a Space Marine, but they should be a little smaller than a Space Marine. These guys are monsters who, if they get a little lucky, they can kill some Space Marines. Also, I'm really looking forward to the change that Games Workshop has promised, where in 11th edition, all Orc Boys will have a Shuda in addition to the Slugga Choppa. Historically, the Shuda has always been a really interesting upgrade, but always kind of overshadowed by the quality of the Slugga Choppa. I've been writing some shooty orc lists that take a lot of Shuda boys, and the math does start to work out. The Slugga Choppa is better, it has a little bit of armor penetration, and it gets even better attached to a war boss. But if you want to run some cheap orc squads, there's something to the Shuda because they shoot a lot of dice in the shooting phase, and then they charge in and they still get a lot of punches, especially on the Wog turn. The math does start to even out and keep your Orc Boy squads cheap. But being able to do a ton of shooting and then charge in and get some good Slugga Choppa attacks, it's the best of both worlds. Now I've got my modern Orc Boy put together, WYSIWYG, as per 11th edition, and now it is time to get this guy on a base and turn him into a proper Goff. I grabbed a Cobalt Keep 32mm magnet base, and I took some chunks of thick cork and I glued these down as spots for my orc's feet to stand on. I cut the cork on a slight angle and smoothed it with a nail file, checking with my boy to see if he's looking good. I ended up adding another little bit of cork so that I can have both feet up on something. I glued him down with plenty of thick super glue. By the way, thick super glue available from EonsOfBattle.com. His feet are pretty big, so I don't think pinning will be necessary. Then for texture, I grabbed my industrial mud paste. This stuff has very fine particulate, and I smeared this all over the base, and I also sparingly stamped this onto the metal bits of his weapons and armor as texture. I want these to be nice and rusty. Now that all the modeling is done, I hit my boy with a white primer. Orcs deceptively have a lot going on, so I want to leverage speed paint to get him done quick. Starting off with Grim Black speed paint, I added a little bit of speed paint medium to this, and then I quickly painted this on all of his shirt, his fingerless gloves, and his boots. I'm working fast, flooding this onto the section so the paint has time to be wet and settle on the model, making it darker in the recesses. Once it was dry, I gave the model a second coat, not everywhere, just on the bottom half of each part so that the top area remains brighter, then transitions to dark black on the undersides and in the recesses. Then I grabbed some ash gray paint and I thinned this down so I can push the highlights even further, glazing this over the top parts of my Grim Black paint, smoothing the finish of the speed paint, and edge highlighting some of the wrinkles so that the color really looks its best. I also glazed this over his back and shoulders to make it look like the sun is really beating down on him, only leaving him black in the shadows. That's all the black 100% done, now for the brown. I took Darkwood speed paint and I did the same exact thing for his pants. Thinning this color a little, then glazing it over his pants in a quick coat. And I also put this over the start and finish of his Shuda strap, but not in the middle, I have plans for that later. Once it was all dry, I went over the Darkwood again, on the underside, adding a second coat to make it darker and more saturated. Then for the highlight, I took some Paratrooper tan. This will be my highlight, and I glazed this on the top facing parts of the pants, and I edge highlighted to make them look sharp. The speed paint is doing most of the heavy lifting for me, and I'm just pushing it over the edge a little bit with regular paints. Now onto the weapons and armor. I grabbed one of my all-time favorite colors, Noble Skin. This is a gray black with a little bit of brown tinge. That is a fantastic step 1 for metals. Now my Goff is looking orky, but not too goffy. It's time to add that Goff red. I took some Dragon Red from Army Painter and I added a little bit of black paint to darken it, and I painted this over the straps running over his torso. After the dark red, I painted pure Dragon Red on the top and then glazed this color in the middle so that there was a smooth transition, following the highlights and shadows the speed paint already gave me. I mixed a little bit of white paint into my Dragon Red to get a brighter color, and I edge highlighted the straps, and I did some small stamps and stipples along the edge to make these straps look like bumpy leather. And I did some very fine scratches to beat them up further. Then on the Shuda strap, I painted some white paint over the top, fixing some of the Grim Black I accidentally splashed onto these pieces. Then to further Goffify my boy, I painted some black checkers. The Goffs are known for black clothing and armor with some accents of red and black and white checkering. I painted some stripes of black, doing one black cell and one white cell alternating. I'm glad I made this extra strap because this was a pretty easy detail to do. Once it was happy with my checkers, I edge highlighted the strap with white and I did some small scratches through the black cells to make it look weathered. Orcs, particularly Goffs, don't take great care of their equipment. Wanting to get some more checkers on there, I painted some more on his little crotch armor, painting the lines of white and then filling in alternating cells. This turned out fine, but it doesn't grab the eye like the Shuda strap. Now to finish off those weapons, I want them really rusty, so I grabbed my bottle of Dirty Down Rust, also available from EonsOfBattle.com. I thinned this 50-50 with water, and I put this over the Noble Skin, laying it down thick. Lots of water plus thickness is what leads to the rust effect really popping off. Once it was dry, I can do some editing, taking a damp dry brush and wiping the rust off some of the flat raised areas to make the rust look even more natural in the recesses. Then to finish off the metal, I dry brushed all the armor and weapons with some silver paint. This is the only true metallic on these bits, but with the layers of effects, it looks just like real metal. Now the Goffs are the vanilla orc clan. All of the other orc cultures, their personality comes through against the Goffs, but there's still a little something to these guys. Their love of stick bombs and getting into the thick of the fighting, and they have a better than average respect for the Killicans. They respect a little grot who's managed to get himself inside of a mobile tank. And there is a notable unit in the Goff Guard, Ghazghkull Thraka's personal bodyguards. I would like to put together these guys, probably out of the Knob kit, and I would like to steal the back banners from the Flash kits so that I could put on all of these lovely decals, and particularly the ones for the Goffs are the Great Horned Orcs. If you've ever wondered why some orc skulls are depicted with horns, it is because of the Goffs. At least the Goffs are usually the ones wearing them. Now, my little Goff is ready for the orc skin, and I have tried 100 different ways to do orc skin, and I don't know if I've ever quite nailed it. But the 101st try is going to be the charm. Step 1 to good orc skin is, of course, familiar pink. I thin this color down a lot and I put this on the lower half of each part of his skin. My thinking is that the green over top of this will let some of that warm, vibrant color show through and give my orcs some nice complexion that actually makes them feel alive, like they have blood running under their green skin. And for that green skin, I grabbed some Ghillie Dhu speed paint. This is a really bright color and I thinned it down a lot, putting this right over the white primer still showing and the familiar pink, and it definitely did something. It turned the Ghillie Dhu a warm brown where the familiar pink really pooled, and it does make the skin a little bit more exciting. I added a second coat of Ghillie Dhu where it wasn't looking saturated enough, and on some of the familiar pink undercoating, it looked a little yucky, so I took some electric lime and I glazed this over the top of his head and the top of his muscles to smooth them out. This is more of a corrective step. I bet with some practice I could get the familiar pink Ghillie Dhu process perfect in one shot. I hit his teeth with some white paint. They got stained a little bit too pink from the familiar pink, although it does look good over the gums, tongue, and lips. And you know what else it looks great over? That's right, our website. On EonsOfBattle.com, we have all kinds of hobby goodies, Grey Tide studio bits to spice up your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, base and cork, and we have glue. Ultra thin and ultra thick super glue. And we have terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack I've ever made, or the brand new one. In April, we have created the Armored Accessories Bits Pack. This set is full of awesome components to make your vehicles as unique and characterful as your infantry. With all kinds of equipment storage, barrels and tools for your tanks to carry, seals and tassels that are vehicle-sized, big ol' missiles, and extra armor. So many pieces of armor plating in different sizes and styles so your tanks can get the armor treatment that looks best for them. Whether it's a futuristic war machine, an ancient Hulk, or a chaotic monstrosity, these accessories will have your tanks covered. This Bits Back is by tank players for tank players and is available both digitally and physically printed for you at EonsOfBattle.com. Given the model a once over, there is one spot that has managed to get no paint this entire time, and that is this little skull. I put some pallid bone speed paint over this little guy and then highlighted it with pure white. Is this a trophy or a fancy purse he keeps his teeth in? I'm really liking how my orc is looking, and now to give him a really eye-catching base. I grabbed some Army Painter John Blanche paint, Ruddy Terra. I really like the colors that come in these sets, and they're also available from EonsOfBattle.com. This Ruddy Terra color is a super hot orangey brown that I coated the whole base in. Then I took Moonbeam Yellow, another John Blanche color, thinned this down into a glaze, and I put this over the Ruddy Terra so that the ground looks like a bright baked earth. Once that was dry, I painted the rim of the base black, and my Goff is ready for action. I think I'm onto something with the pink underpainting and the green over top. It's definitely a low effort, high impact effect. And I'm always looking for those sorts of things for orcs because you're never just painting one orc, you're always painting 10 orcs, or 20, or 30. Anything I do, I know I'm gonna have to do a whole lot. Now that this guy is done, I am liking the classic Goffs, and I really like this new kit. There is something classic about the old school kit, but the new one is much better. And I think the move is going to be using this kit, but attaching some guns. And then the 11th edition launch box is gonna have some more Orc Boys in it. And those are gonna be some cool, unique monopose sculpts. And then if they get the same treatment that Tyrannid did in the Leviathan box, soon afterwards there'll be a multi-part plastic kit released for Orc Boys. And so that should be the easiest way to get 30 very unique boys before I need to start kit bashing to get some uniqueness. In my orc army, I think I've got about 60 of the old classic Orc Boys, and I would like them all to look like the new snazzy awesome sculpts. But that would take a while, and my old Orc Boys are doing just fine on the tabletop. I think in my collecting, what I'm gonna do is focus on some of the new stuff, like the Beastnaga Boys and the Boar Buggies, and I've got like a whole drawer full of Def Coptas that I would like to paint up. But if I can get everything done, then I think I would like to go back and redo my Orc Boys so that I can have them all looking real nice. I now have the Goffs under my belt, and there's plenty more Orc clans where this guy came from, and I think I'm gonna be working on some of those guys next. Thanks for watching. And thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. You can find more linked in the description below.